Sorry.
Okay, so we're going to check in three right now. Let's make sure that your question.
Well, we look, and one look we do is there are different wording that's close enough that.
They're checking the three. Okay. You might want to alert them. This has never happened. Okay. I do the high school kids. That'd be terrible.
All right, so let's start over. Sorry about that. So why did the Articles of Confederation prove inadequate to the first attempt to form a national government? In what ways did the Articles of Confederation demonstrate a distrust of a strong national government? And what was the historical and philosophical reasons for the distrust of strong national government? To what extent do these reasons exist today? Are they justified? Why or why not?
One of the major tasks that the early United States faced was creating a new form of government. However, many at the time were skeptical about the formation of a strong centralized government. Consequently, they opted for the loose political organization in which states retain their rights and sovereignty, and this became known as the Articles of Confederation. While the Articles created executive departments, admiralty courts to hear state appeals, and the Northwest Ordinance of 1787, in time this document proved inadequate in solving the ever-evolving affairs of the young nation, such as disputes about state borders, taxation, and foreign relations.
One major flaw that the Articles contained was the fact that it could not make laws and had no authority over any one person in any state. Only state governments had the authority over their citizens. Additionally, if a statute was set forth by the Congress, the national government had no way to hold that individual culpable in the event that it was violated.
Another problem that faced the Articles was the fact that it had no power to collect taxes from the states or from the people directly. It could only request money from the state governments, who were supposed to raise money from their citizens. An example of this flaw can be found in the case of the Revolutionary War debt. During the war, Congress had borrowed most of the money needed to fund the war. However, after the war, Congress had no way of paying off these debts, which would have led to a bad foreign credit rating. When Congress requested $10 million from the states to pay for the cost of fighting the war, the states only paid $1.5 million, and those bills were left unpaid. Debt continued to be problematic with the subsequent Shays Rebellion, as well as other uprisings dealing with debt ranging from South Carolina to New Hampshire.
Another domestic shortfall that materialized under the Articles of Confederation was that Congress could not regulate trade between the states. Individual states actually engaged in levying taxes on goods passing through their state bound for other states. For example, tobacco shipped from Virginia to New York had to pass through Pennsylvania and was taxed by the Pennsylvania legislature. This practice prompted Benjamin Franklin to liken the practice of that of a keg tapped at both ends.
Another problem with the Articles of Confederation may have served as the precursor to the development of our amending process today. That problem lay in Article 13 of the document. Nor shall any alteration be made unless such alteration be agreed to by the legislatures of every state. The Articles of Confederation could not be amended unless all states were in agreement, something that never happened.
From a historical point of view, the distrust displayed by the founding generation towards a strong national government stemmed from the fact that the states had just escaped the yoke of oppression from the British. They felt it would have been a mistake by replacing it with one of their own making. One state, Rhode Island, in an effort to prevent the formation of a strong central government, abstained from the Constitutional Convention altogether. From a philosophical standpoint, skeptics of a strong central government centered on the belief that a Republican government could only succeed in small communities where people shared common ideas and beliefs. Thus, the structure of the Articles of Confederation grants the central government only powers which are strictly defined by the states and keeps the power much closer to the average citizen.
Well, this fear and distrust of the federal government is not just something of yesteryear. According to a new poll by the Pew Research Center, only 19% of Americans trust the government almost or all of the time. According to a Gallup poll, 60% of the American people believe that the federal government has too much power. Additionally, many believe that the so-called Beltway politicians are out of touch with the average American. Congressional approval currently sits around 11%, and political gridlock, recent political discourse, and other events have led to this distrust.
However, many Americans realize the benefits and importance of a strong federal government, ranging from issues like domestic security in 9/11 world, federal emergency relief from natural disasters in California or Texas, and educational funding of programs such as We the People. The federal government...
Go ahead and finish your
The
sentence.
federal government is a powerful instrument in driving our nation forward to the future.
Thank you. Question number 4, please.
Why do you think that the articles did not give the Confederation Congress the power to collect taxes?
I think that they were scared to death to let a central government have a power like that, because as the phrase goes, the power to tax is the power to destroy. And they were scared of yielding that. They had seen what a powerful central government under George III and his parliament had imposed upon the 13 colonies, and they didn't want that anymore. They were happy. Remember the benign neglect that had gone on for 150 years. They were happy having their own little legislatures. And now I'm going to give up a power to some other national government? No way.
I think that there was also a fear that larger states with their interests would maybe give themselves a tax break and all tax the smaller states a little bit more. For instance, Virginia would maybe give themselves a break on the tobacco tax, but then they would make up that revenue by penalizing trade in Connecticut and Delaware.
One thing that might even be simpler than that was a lot of times people look at things from an individual standpoint. If it seemed like a donation, there were a lot of people that were concerned about getting their feet established, getting their families taken care of and whatever. So at that point in time, they weren't ready to just give up what they had, fearing what was going to be coming in the future.
I think one more thing would be that larger states probably had the fear of perhaps carrying the tax burden over the smaller states, and so why would I want to, give up the power to be taxed or be taxed by a centralized government if I, as a larger state such as Virginia or New York, are going to have to carry that burden for a smaller state like Delaware or New Jersey?
What problems were caused by the inability of Congress to make laws directly regulating the behavior of citizens?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah. What problems were caused by the inability of Congress to make laws directly regulating the behavior of citizens?
Well, aren't we discussing sovereignty? We and the states had the sovereignty over the citizens. And that was a major thing to give up, because your state would understand you more than a national government.
I don't know that people were that concerned about control of individual citizens by the government under the Articles of Confederation, since that had traditionally been the power held by the state legislatures as far as statute for murder or theft or anything like that. I don't know that there was that much movement that was something that the national government should control. I think there was more discussion about taxation and business and foreign relations and all those kinds of things, not as opposed to individual rights, since there was a Bill of Rights for each of those states.
But didn't that affect how they fought the revolution also, though?
I don't know that I understand that.
The Congress, did it have a lot of power to fight the revolution or to carry out the war on the revolution, or did it rely on the states?
That was
what kind of problems did that?
That's the point I was making, is that the policies concerning taxation and raising an army and all of those kinds of things are not really similar to the behavior of people when you go into a bar and get into a fight. I think those are, to a certain thing, I think two different spheres, if I'm not mistaken. Please jump in.
I think that, if you boil it down, one issue that federal courts, for example, solve today is if someone commits a crime in a certain state, and that person needs to be, for lack of a better word, extradited to another state there. If the state government which that person was from or committed the crime and did not want to do that, who is going to enforce that? And so today, with a federal court system, states have to, there's an arbitrary person that can make that, or an arbitrator that can make that decision and say this person needs to be sent back to wherever they came from, or something along those lines.
But didn't the Congress really did not have any way to compel even the citizens of the state to do something, or to compel them to appear in court or anything like that without the state cooperating?
Correct.
What kind of problems did that occur? That was the question.
wasn't that one of the problems of Shays' Rebellion and other rebellions that were happening at that time period? They were crossing state lines.
Well, did Massachusetts have the ability at first to put down Shays' Rebellion without the help of national government?
Massachusetts would have been able to put down the state rebellion with their own militia, but they chose not to.
But were they able to at first? Because it went on for a while.
It did go.
It went on for a while. I don't think they had the power because as I understand the story, then the business interests in Boston had to hire their own militia to deal with it. But if you may be more going to sort of the situation that occurred in Virginia with the dispute between Maryland and Virginia over collecting tariffs on shipping and so forth, to which they almost came to a shooting war, and Washington had to step in and start the whole process that got us the Constitutional Convention with his little meeting at Mount Vernon. So.
Good job.
Thank you.
First of all, good job. The participation was really good. Everybody had a nice part, an equal part for the most part. And then as time went on, you kept going, and so that was really good. I also like how most everyone jumped in on questions, and they were trying to answer the questions, so that was good. I thought your supporting evidence was really, really good. You had a quote from the founders. You had quotes from, you cited parts of the articles themselves about things like that, and you brought up Rhode Island. Never participating, that's always good. So the supporting evidence was really good. So, very good.
Yeah, I thought you guys did a really, really nice job. I would really reiterate the supporting evidence. I really, when I'm judging, really like to see, the quotes, the data pieces. You connected it to today. I thought that was a really good way to sort of bring it full circle with what you were presenting. I would have asked, if we hadn't run out of time, I really liked how you started alluding to sort of the amendment process today and how tricky that, there's like a database website of all the proposed amendments, and obviously we haven't had very many amendments that have been successful because of that, every state, having to agree. So I really liked bringing that in and connecting it as well. So really thought that the evidence piece was very, very strong. Again, really good participation, good pacing. It really seemed like you had practiced, and you had good kind of the fast talkers at the end, which I was always the fast talker at the end. So I appreciated that, and showed a really good understanding, I think, of that unit in particular. So.
And I don't want to be there's not a formula per se, but like she was bringing up, you always want to somehow have some quotes from like the founding fathers to support what you're doing, or have your students when they're writing their thing, make sure they include quotes as best they can to support what their argument is, like either the Constitution or the Articles in this case, some kind of a citation from them supporting it as well from that, or do as much as that as you can. Those are always good. If they don't understand the question about the question about the problems caused by the inability of Congress to make laws directly regulating the behavior of citizens, try to answer as best you can, and then move on. If you don't want to turn it into a thing where you're trying to almost argue with the judge, because then your scores are put down. So, that wasn't good. I mean, the judges will react, probably not as negative, not in a positive way. So.
Thank you very much. Thank you.